Welcome to the Jesus College Zoom Open Day. My name is Patricia Clavin. I'm a fellow and tutor in history, and I teach predominantly modern European history and global history for the college and for the history faculty.
Hello, my name's Alexandra Guider. I'm the tutorial fellow in early modern history here at Jesus College, and I teach all papers in British and European history from between 1500 and 1700 for the college and for the faculty.
And my name's Ali Davis, and I teach primarily modern British history papers at Jesus, so the 19th and 20th centuries.
And we're joined today by a selection of our first year students. Makes it sound like a chocolate box, it's not that, but a selection of first year students who are reading main school history, so single honours history, as well as joint schools, so history and economics and history and modern languages. So Revanth, like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Revanth. I study history.
Hi, I'm Natalie and I study history.
I'm Eleanor and I study history and economics.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm studying history and German.
Okay, so we thought we'd sort of focus our discussion on certain kind of questions about the student experience, particularly in the first year, and what you can expect. So I think we'd like to open, Revanth, if you could give us a sense of what your average week reading history is like.
Sure. In general, I do between, I'd say, I calculated it and it's roughly 40 hours, but it can vary depending on the week. If I have a 2 essay week or 1 essay week, I tend to have 2 days off where it's a weekend. I take that time to relax, and then 5 days working as if I have a proper working week. Yeah, in terms of studies, that's it. And then find time to socialize in and around the reading and writing essays.
And how does it work in terms of tutorial hours, lecture hours, seminars?
Sure. So for the first 2 terms, I had 2 lectures a week, each 1 hour long, and a tutorial weekly. I also had another module where I had a weekly 2-hour class and a 1-hour tutorial. And then this term, I had 1 tutorial a week and I had 1 class a week, each for 1 hour.
Natalie, was it the same for you?
Yeah, same amount of contact hours as Revanth, and pretty similar on the workload as well. I usually take about 3 days to read for an essay and then 1 day to write. And then the other 2 days, and I kind of just do light reading for the next essay.
So you're not having a proper weekend off. You're kind of organising your life a little bit differently by the sounds of it.
Yeah, a little bit, just because I think I learned from the earlier terms that if I didn't kind of just do that little bit extra, then I used to fall behind because my time management wasn't the best. But
no, I suppose that's one of the things about studying. It's partly learning how to manage your own time as well as the workload. It's quite a different experience from school, isn't it, where your time is more structured for you. Ryan, how does it work in history and German?
So I find, similar to the single honours students, that I don't have too many contact hours for history. I mean, in my first term, I only had 1 tutorial every fortnight. So it was an hour of contact for every 2 weeks. That's gone up slightly this term because I've got a class which is 2 hours and a tutorial which is an hour every week. But all the way through, I've had more contact for German. I have 2 translation classes a week. On top of grammar classes, which are an hour once a week, and a couple of lectures for literature as well, which are both an hour long. So yeah, all the way through, it's been more of an experience to have contact with my German tutors than it is for history, but obviously I've got more reading to do on my own for history. So yeah, the big challenge is balancing those two and finding a good way of balancing it.
Yeah, it's more independent reading for history. And how do the lectures work for you then?
So my lectures have mainly been on literature. So we have a certain amount of set texts. In the first term, I did 4 plays, and then in Hilary's term, I had 4 novels. And the lectures there's usually 2 lectures on each set text, and then after that, I'll have secondary reading and an essay to write on those as well. But we also had in the first term some society and culture lectures. So taking us through some broad themes in German history and German culture right up to the present day.
And I suppose it's one of the ways that the study of German language and literature and history start to fit together in your degree. That's kind of what you're planning to do. But I suppose one of the challenges on the history side is that the history lectures don't necessarily run alongside your tutorials because of the way that joint honours works. It's sort of you have to fit around the way that the main school works. Eleanor, how does it work in history and economics?
It's sort of, I think it's quite similar to Ryan, that our history sort of goes alongside. So I have, in the first term, when I was also doing economics, I had a history essay every other week, and then I had an economics tutorial sheet every week. But it was sort of, you can sort of do an economics tutorial sheet in an afternoon or a day a lot of the time, as long as you sort of kept up with the lectures, because the main way that you get taught is there are 3 lectures every week. So then, as long as you've kept up to date with the content, you then should be able to do the tutorial sheet. It only will take longer if you've not been keeping up with it. And then this term, I've just had the same workload as like a normal historian, because the economics only runs through 2 terms. But yeah, it was sort of in the first term, sort of because the way that it's sometimes sort of hard to organise, I ended up having to do like a lot more. But then it meant that my like second 2 terms were a lot more relaxed. So it does, even if at some points with joint schools your workload is slightly more, it does always balance out. Like you don't actually ever do way more than what the single honours historians are doing.
Yeah, it's just a bit more of a bumpy load.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've talked about work, which can sort of sound a bit onerous. What have you especially enjoyed about your degree so far? Maybe Natalie, you could talk us through what's been fun.
I've loved studying subjects in a lot more depth than A-level. And the tutorial system I've really enjoyed. At the start, I was quite scared to speak, but as time's come on, I've been a lot more vocal, and you get a lot more out of it if you're more vocal. So
that's great. What about you, Ryan?
I think the big difference for me between history at school and history here is that there's a lot more sort of focus on conceptual thinking, and you get a chance to do some real deep thinking about things, rather than sort of just remembering facts and dates and figures and things like that. You really think about a lot of big questions, things like race, class, power, the nature of those things, a lot of ideological work. And I think it's a really interesting, almost philosophical side of history that I hadn't really covered as much at school.
Great. Eleanor?
Yeah, I think I agree with them a lot. I think I've really enjoyed the fact that how quickly it moves as well, because it's quite intimidating how every new tutorial essay is like something completely different, but it just means that you're constantly sort of being challenged by new thoughts and new ideas, and just you sort of, because where at A-level it can become quite grueling that you're going over the same facts all the time and like the same small topics. You're just sort of, you get a much broader picture of things, and it's a lot more exciting because it's always new. It's always something like you're always reading about, even though it's like one paper for the term, it's like every week is like a new topic. So I think that's been really good.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. What about you, Ravant? What have you enjoyed the most?
I like that it's almost like you're doing a sort of bespoke degree, because you can choose which topics you read specifically into, and later on in terms you can discuss with your tutor and kind of say, oh, I want to do an essay on this topic, is that possible, can we fit that in? And a lot of times tutors will be flexible with you and they'll give you leeway to do that. So you really get to kind of read within specific topics which topics you like, and that's really good in terms of
And also, even within essays, I think they're always, especially with the European and world history paper, you can make whatever you want. You can choose which countries to specialize in. Like there's always, I think there's just so much more freedom, and it's so much less of like a strict curriculum of the things you have to talk about. You can really decide what you're interested in and pursue that.
Thanks.
I think it's my turn, is it, Patricia? To do read. I just wondered if I could have a little follow-up to that, because it's really nice hearing about the things you've enjoyed. And I just wondered if you could just say something about which papers you've enjoyed, to give us sort of flavour of the things you've been studying. Ravant, which paper have you particularly enjoyed, do you think, most?
Sure. Just this term, I've been doing the Mongols. That's my optional paper, and I've loved that. So that's the rise of the Mongol Empire and their effect into Eurasia and Europe, and their interactions with the Islamic world, China, Europe. And then I've also done Britain 4, which was the Tudors and the Stuarts. And then I've done Europe 1, which was from 370 to 900 AD, so quite early on.
Enormous kind of range of things you've looked at. Natalie?
So what I've just finished doing was the optional subject about the Haitian Revolution, which I've really, really enjoyed because it's so different to what I've ever studied before. A lot less Eurocentric, and I've just loved it. And then, so everything I've picked I haven't done before. So at the start, I love learning about the Industrial Revolution, and then in Hillary, I learnt about like the Crusades. So you can choose whatever you want, basically.
Eleanor, you've also done the Haitian Revolution, haven't you? Which of the history you particularly enjoyed?
I really loved the Haitian one as well. I think it brought up loads of really big questions, but I think I also really enjoyed the quantification in history paper that I took this year, because I came from a background where I did lots of maths at A level, and then it meant that I got to still do loads of stats, and it meant that there was sort of a bridge between sort of the really mathsy side that I was doing in economics and all the essays in history, and it meant that I got to continue doing maths, which I loved, but then brought it in with history and sort of began to try and work on merging like the two sides of my degree together.
That's excellent. And Ryan, which of the history papers have you enjoyed?
So as a HML student, I'm not actually constrained by any of the requirements to study a wide range of chronology. So I've pretty much specialised on modern history. I did a not long 19th century paper for European and world, and I've just done an optional paper in 1919 with Alid actually, and Patricia, which was...
And that wasn't best, was it?
I really enjoyed it. I think it was quite a different experience to the 19th century paper, just because of how broad that was. And I think specialising on what seems to be 1 year, but then actually sort of turns into more of a decade-long study, but really specialising on a few things really in great detail is really interesting.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things you do in the first year, isn't it? You do these very big outline papers, thinking about huge processes of historical, political, social change, but you also do these kinds of focus papers where you're reading primary sources as well, and it makes a nice sort of distinction. Okay, now I've got the rather different question. What have you found especially challenging about your degree? Eleanor, would you like to start us off on that?
I think...
Not worse, challenging.
I think what I found most challenging was definitely because I don't get very many contact hours on either side of economics or history, so that in a lot of my time I was just I would get the essay question, I'd get the tutorial sheet, and especially in economics there isn't very much teaching, it's all lectures and then one tutorial a week. And then with history, you get an essay title and then you just and a reading list, and you just have to go off and do it. And I think just learning to not be scared of that and just go into it and make of it what you make of it. I think that was definitely the most challenging bit, but it was just getting used to it. It was just a shock at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Ravanth, what do you think was most
challenging? I mean, in the same thing, just getting the reading list, it's all about time management. So we've spoken about the kind of freedom you get having such few contact hours and how that's different from school. But it also means you need to keep pulling yourself up and making sure you're the one doing your work and making sure you're doing it on time, because you don't have like 5 contact hours a day, but it means you still need to put in that same work just in your own time to make sure you're doing well.
Could you relate that to the number of pieces of work you actually write and have marked for history? It's probably, an essay, 3 essays every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it's either an essay a week or 3 essays every 2 weeks, and I make sure that like you have a time from 9 to 5 or whatever, and you're largely working in that time period, and you're not just because you don't have contact hours, it doesn't mean you don't have work. And I think that was the main challenge that I had to get into my head, basically.
Kind of independent learning. Ryan, what about you?
I think as great as having two subjects to study is, and I couldn't imagine doing one over the other, or dropping one. It can be really difficult to balance the two sides of my course, because as much as they do complement each other in places, there are very, very different skills that you have to harness. If I'm doing a translation or something like that in one part of the day, and then I've got to go into the library and get my head around some really sort of theoretical history reading, and there's a lot of deadlines, obviously. So yeah, like the others have said, time management and sort of getting yourself to be really responsible with your time and just getting into a good work ethic, what you're doing can be quite challenging.
A very different atmosphere to school, isn't it, where you're in charge of your own timetable?
Absolutely.
Natalie, what about you?
Same as Rayvant, really. At the start, time management was a big thing for me, and I'd taken a gap year, so it was quite a shock to go from not studying to studying like this. But and finding that self-motivation to work. But once you establish a routine and find out like what periods of the day you work best, it's so much more time to do other things.
Great. And what do you think applicants should, looking back at the end of your first year, what do you wish you'd really known about before applying to Oxford? What would have been helpful information for people in your situation who are now going to apply? Natalie, could you start us off again?
I would say I don't know what I wish I'd known, but I felt quite intimidated at the start by applying. So just kind of reassure yourself that you shouldn't be intimidated by the application process, and just kind of.
Yeah, great. And Ryan?
Yeah, I think I'd echo that, really. I think it's, first of all, having the idea of applying in the first place is a really big achievement, especially if from a background that doesn't tend to get into places like Oxford or Cambridge or any of the other big universities, or going to university at all, actually. I think having the ambition to get to somewhere like this in the first place is a really big thing, and just really backing yourself to get through the process and come before the tutors and show them what you can do.
Okay, and Rayvant, looking back at the end of your first year, what do you wish you'd known before applying to Oxford and the start of your degree?
I like Oxford is a friendly place, and they have normal people here too. It's not what you believe it is. I think that's genuinely something I wasn't sure was the case. It's a university like any other place. You've got people of all kinds, and it's a really lovely place. So don't be put off by kind of, I guess, the stereotypes or any of the kind of preconceptions you might have.
Fantastic. And Eleanor, do you have any words on that?
Yeah, I think sort of along a similar vein, I think just sort of, I wish I'd known that there weren't any like big secrets that were being kept from me, that it was just like all the information that was available was the same information that everybody else had, and there weren't any like big secrets on like how you get in, or just like secret things that if you do you'll definitely get in, or if you do this one thing you like definitely won't like get in. Like they're just there isn't anything to know. They're just looking at you as a person. They're also people, and then it's not any different from any other university. It's just a slightly different process, and all you can do is just show them who you are, because that's what they want to know. So
thank you. Okay,
great. And it leads us on to the last question, really. You've obviously encouraged everyone to apply now. We're going to be deluged with applicants because you're so enthusiastic and you've sold it so well. And one of the things that's most often the thing that people worry about most is the interview, which Eleanor just touched on. Natalie, what was your experience? I mean, what was your experience of the interview? What happened, and how did it how did it go?
So I had two interviews. One was with Alid, and it was like a source question. You have like a source beforehand, and then you go in and you discuss about the source. And then the other one was based mainly on my written work, with other questions about my A-level syllabus. I came out crying, but looking back, I don't really know why I came out crying, because nothing bad actually happened. I think I was just being a bit dramatic.
We were quite nice. I mean, we weren't quite nice to you, but you were very nervous, weren't you, Natalie? So
yeah, I was.
Tell us why we shouldn't admit you, and we were trying to tell you why we might admit you. And so, you know, it's, and that's, you know, but it's good also, I mean, you did admit you were nervous, and we talked about that, and what we were, the purpose of the interview and the kind of questions that we ask is to explore what you know. We weren't trying to catch you out.
And it goes to show also that you can, you know, find it a difficult process, but it doesn't have any particular impact on what our assessments of you too. And we're not looking for sort of smooth and polished answers. We're well aware that you're going to be nervous, probably. We're just trying to, you know, tease out your potential.
Ray-Van, you'll know.
Sorry, what was that, Alice?
Sorry, I was going to say, technically, we've been going well so far, but I think maybe my internet's being funny. Ray-Van, you'll know that before going to an interview, there was actually another process of doing a written test. How was that? What was your experience of doing that?
Right. So the hat is a weird sort of time, because it's very different to the type of essays you're writing in A-levels or anything, because you're just there critically analysing a source, and you're not bringing in any other facts you've memorised like in A-levels or any other things like that, and it's completely unseen, so you haven't prepared for it. But in that sense, you're kind of more free than you've ever really been writing critically. Like, you don't have to worry about, oh, do I remember what happened in this year or anything like that. You can just go in for, I think it's an hour and a half, I can't remember now, and you can just write critically and show how you think as a historian. If I could quickly add something about the interview process, I think when you first arrive, especially in Jesus, you arrive in the JCR and it's such a friendly atmosphere. Obviously everyone's nervous, but there's students helping you out. I've met people there on that day who I'm still friends with in Jesus, at other colleges, even at other universities. And we still discuss about, you know, interview times now and all the fun things we did. We had a games night. Some people went out for ice cream. We all went to Leon. It's a nice experience because everyone's in the same boat as you are, and the current students helping you out are trying to make it as, you know, stress-free as they can. So go for it and really enjoy it and savor it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good advice. It's a very welcoming place. And, you know, from our point of view as interviewers, we just want to see people do well and have an interesting conversation with them. And we want them to relax. And we understand that it's quite a kind of intimidating and stressful experience. But if you come in and are open and are interested and engaged in talking about history, it's actually a pretty nice experience. I mean, it should be. Eleanor, what was it like to do interviews for joint school, so for history and economics?
So I had them both on the same day. I had my history one in the morning and then my economics one later that day in the afternoon. The history one was pretty much primarily on the essay that I'd submitted. So I sort of just got asked questions about that, which I think was quite nice, because I'd come being really nervous, and then it was about something that I was quite familiar with, so I was sort of able to, because my school had really bigged up this idea that they were going to ask me all these philosophical questions about the meaning of life, and I was just really nervous that I was going to have to just pull something out of nowhere, and but then I came in and it was just about things that I knew, and it was all just very relaxed and fine. And then the economics one was, we had to go half an hour before, and then you got you got 5 questions and a little brief, and it was sort of just about, you didn't have to know any economics at all. It was just about sort of some guy selling secondhand bikes, and it was all just about using logic. And then you sort of just sat there, answered the questions, and then both of them were a lot better than I thought they were going to be. I think it's just the interviewer wants to get the most out of you, so then they're always going to be really friendly and really nice. They're never going to want to intimidate you, because then they're not going to see. So it's always they're going to try really hard to make it a pleasant experience for you.
Yeah, definitely. Because if it's not a pleasant experience for you, it's also not pleasant for us. We don't enjoy people being stressed or unhappy. You know, we don't. That's not the purpose of it at all. It's so that's the right way to think about it. Ryan, was there a similar type of way of having your interviews for history in German?
Yeah, as far as I remember, they're a bit of a nervous blur now, to be honest, my interviews. But I think, yeah, from what Ellen has described, it's fairly similar. I had my history one in the morning, pretty much as soon as I arrived in college, so I was a bit stressed going into it. And then I had my German one in the afternoon, so I only had 2 interviews altogether. But I think, yeah, once you've got the first one out of the way, and I sort of thought that, you know, the history one didn't go all that well, but clearly it went well enough. The German one was a lot more comfortable. I felt like I had an idea of what to expect, and yeah, at the end of the day, it just felt like a chat. It just felt like a chat with really, really clever people about things I was really interested in.
Good. I'm not sure how clever we are, but that's good. That's exactly what.
I suppose I just wanted to add, really, I think one of the things that, and you can find more information about the application process on the history faculty website, is that for us as tutors, the interview is only one way of us getting to know you, but we also, you know, look through the UCAS form, read your written work, which is the basis of one of the 2 interviews, and know about your history aptitude test scores and so on. So it's, you know, you don't also need to put yourself under pressure to think the interview is a make or break. It isn't. But you know, a nice friendly conversation is a great way to think about it.
And just on that subject, one of the questions I always get asked in face-to-face open days is, my personal statement is really stressing me out. What are you looking for in a personal statement? I mean, I don't know how you felt about this, but my advice is always to be very relaxed, put down some things on it, some books that you've read, make sure you've read them, and not to worry too much, you know, write in coherent prose. And we may ask you some questions about that at the end of talking to you about your actual schoolwork, but it's not something to worry too much about. We do read it and take it seriously, but it's not something, you know, it's not something to be so anxious about in the way that some students seem to be.
Yeah, I from face-to-face open days, people ask me about that also, and I always say that we want to see that you've done some reading, as Alex said, and I think it's probably become clear, most of what you do as a history student is read, and we want a sense that you actually enjoy reading history, and then also that you think about it and are kind of keen to talk about it. So read and think about it, and hopefully you'll get the opportunity to have a conversation with us about it.
Sounds like a great way to end. So thank you, our first year students, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you back properly in October. And thanks very much from the history tutors too.